Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
And it was wearing. The button says, Black Lives Matter, White Supremacists Kill. The two had a heated confrontation over it, and it got so bad the captain had to intervene and then escorted the passenger off the plane. Evan Axelbank's here at Tampa International Airport live tonight. Evan, so back us up. The passenger was kicked off the plane here. How'd this all come about?
Yeah, he was. Well, the passenger says that he was shocked that a flight attendant would wear something so political while doing her job. Now, when he questioned her on the pin, she defended it, and now it appears that the airline is siding with their passenger.
Visiting from Houston, Robert Coyle had a good vacation with relatives.
We went out to Tarpon Springs, big festival out there. They've got all sorts of food.
When it was time to go back Sunday evening, he boarded Spirit Flight 315.
Sat down, got out my books.
But something caught his eye. This flight attendant was wearing a button that said, Black Lives Matter, White Supremacists Kill.
I said, all lives matter. And she said, I disagree with you. I disagree with you on so many levels. And then she went into some sort of a memorized, I really can't speak politically when I'm in uniform.
She asked to see the picture that he'd taken of her, insisting that doing so violated airline policy. Though he agreed to delete that picture, he still says she stopped her safety demonstration to ask the pilot to take the plane back to the gate to kick him off. He was able to recover the picture later.
No company should allow that to happen unless they're willing to accept the consequences for that happening.
Indeed, Spirit says their flight attendant broke policy of not wearing anything political, religious, or inflammatory on their uniform. They offered Coyle undisclosed restitution and took undisclosed disciplinary action on the unidentified flight attendant, who they say has been with the airline for 14 months. Coyle says he is satisfied with Spirit's response.
If you have something offensive on your uniform, you're going to offend customers, and customers pay the bills.
Now, of course, that is his own opinion on the button itself. Spirit passed no judgment on the content of what was actually on the button, except to say that it violated their flight attendant uniform policy. He says that he is absolutely going to fly Spirit again. They rebooked him, Mark, on a flight that is heading back to Houston tomorrow. We are told it is going to be the same flight number. However, we're also told that it is going to be a different crew flying him there.
I'm sure that will make a difference in his case. Evan, thanks very much.
And may all your Christmases be white. Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Under the system of white supremacy, black people and white people can only interact with each other in three categories: tacky, trashy, terroristic. Doesn't get any better than tacky. It shouldn't be. Under the system of racism, it can't get any better than tacky. Meaning it's just slipshod. It's not well put together. It's not sincere. It's just raggedy. That's what tacky means. Now, if you try to improve on that tackiness, then it becomes trashy. Like black people at a party with white people. It's tacky. I mean, everybody's kind of standoffish. I mean, everybody's kind of, nobody really knows how to do or what to do and all like that, and everybody's trying to do something. They don't quite know what it is. Okay? Now, if they try to improve on that, then it gets trashy real quick. I mean, people start saying something that's vulgar, something obscene. So it gets real trashy. And then from the trashiness comes the terror. Somebody says something that they shouldn't have said because they had a little too much to drink or snort, and then a fight breaks out. The result is everybody leaves the scene with a real bad feeling. Because the system is designed to produce just that. Tacky, trashy, terroristic. That is the interaction with black people and white people every day, wherever they happen to be. It's going to be one of those categories, or a combination of all three, before the day is over. But it doesn't get any better than tacky. I call it the 3 T's. Tacky, trashy, terroristic. That's it. Anywhere on the planet you are, when black people are in contact with white people. I mean, the laugh, if they're laughing, if all of them are laughing, the laughing is artificial. It's tacky. It's not sincere.
Have you seen these sort of events where white people and non-white people are together? Have you seen these sort of things go down where the people feel like they had a really good time, and this is an example of people getting together to work against racism? Like, we got together, we had a really good time. There were no fights or anything. If it didn't get trashy and it didn't get terroristic, then at very best it was tacky. Meaning for the most part, people were being phony. That is the major characteristic of tackiness. It's not right down to the gut. It's not that feeling of so-called goodwill and whatnot, right to the gut, right to the core. No, it's tacky. It's all surface. It's all acting. Everybody's acting. That's why even at a meeting, you find black people have a tendency to be the first to start laughing. And then the next thing you know, everything turns out to be a joke. Even when they're talking about racism, if it's black people and white people at the table, next thing you know, somebody's got to start joking or laughing. They do it self-consciously because the conversation looks like it's getting too heated. So you ease away from the truth because of that. And the next thing you know, people are making jokes. Because they don't want to slide into the terroristic part. They can see it coming. So it remains in the tacky mode, which means non-sincerity. Do you feel like it would be truthful to say that most often when non-white people and white people are communicating, they are not communicating honestly, and that one thing non-white people should work on to be constructive, to replace white supremacy with justice, is to work to overcome their fears and conditioning, to work to speak honestly and accurately when speaking with white people? Do you feel like,
in other words, be able to use logic to find truth and go with the truth every time without deviating, regardless of personal feelings and all like that, and to get that agreed upon to start with. This is not personal, this is business, and we all are going to be searching for the truth. Otherwise we don't have any business here. Got to start with the truth, otherwise we can't get nothing done. Just be going around in a circle like we always do. But we start with the truth of the matter, truth of everybody's faults. 'Cause that's really what we're looking for. Not to praise anybody. This is about finding everybody's faults and how to correct them. Not going to be any praise of anybody here. Get that straight right from the beginning. Because nobody is worthy of it. Nobody here. We got problems. That's all we got. And so if we're going to talk, we talk with the intention of problem solving. Finding the source of the problem and then coming up with a solution. Based on logic. We're not going to sit around here, having congratulations. Or Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so's accomplishments or attitudes or anything else. None of that. I'm not going to spend half the day introducing everybody's credentials. Because nobody's got none sitting at this table.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, December 1st, 2016. So I have been told this is our weekly broadcast on workplace racism. Definitely want to encourage folks. I state this regularly, but it should be especially emphasized on our workplace racism segment. I had to sneeze. Should be especially emphasized on our workplace racism segments. We do not need spectators with regards to counter racism. We need more folks to be actively engaged in applying what they have learned, what their views are about racism, white supremacy, and what should be done with regards to solving this problem. And I think it's so important with regards to the workplace, because I think so many non-white people, we end up being in just horrendous predicaments, situations on the job, and we don't have resources, we don't have other people to share our experience with to kind of help us figure it out. Not everybody, but a lot of people end up being very isolated in those situations, and frequently you can end up, blaming yourself. Certainly you'll have a lot of people on the job, certainly other racists on your job will say, oh yeah, it's for sure your fault. You've been slacking, shiftless, you haven't been on the job. That's the type of thing that they'll say. It'll be some way of, you did this wrong, you're defective. And that is so common in the system of white supremacy. And a lot of non-white people end up thinking that it's just something about their performance, what they have done, what they haven't done on the job, that is causing them problems, as opposed to racism is being practiced on the job in a variety of ways. And that's standard operating procedure for how the system works. So that's why I think it's important just to be able to share things that have happened to us. I state this weekly. We have younger listeners, folks who do not have an extensive work history, so they don't have a lot of experiences to draw on the type of things that can happen, types of things that you should do to try to protect yourself, things that you should be on alert for. They don't know those type of things, so it can be very helpful for younger folks. People know we have teens who listen to the program and what have you, so it's very helpful for them to hear the type of things that we experience, older victims, what we have experienced or are experiencing now on the job, so we can all kind of figure out some strategies. And I think it's just good. That way you won't be surprised when these things happen on the job, and we'll be in a better position to give an excellent counter-racist response. So, share the number 641-715-3640. The code is 564943#. And even if you have reflections on earlier job experiences, what happened, what you would do differently, and how you see things now that you have a better grasp of counter-racism, definitely share that as well. The number again, 641-715-3640. The code is 564943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate. And for this program, if you are not able to participate live, you can drop us an email and we will read your commentary on the air. We can, keep it anonymous, whatever details you want to share, and then folks can give their ideas, suggestions, opinions of whatever your situation is. But my email is untiljustice@gmail.com. Untiljustice@gmail.com. And if you drop me an email, we will include your commentary on the broadcast this evening, and you can hear feedback from listeners as we go. Alrighty. There were a few folks who wrote in. I guess quickly, the segment that we opened up with that happened within the last few days, or I guess last month now, since it's December 1st, but that happened in November with this black female flight attendant. Well, she had her button on that said Black Lives Matter. One, I've seen that situation go down both ways, where it was a black passenger patron of the airline, and they had on like a t-shirt or some sort of paraphernalia that said Black Lives Matter, and they ended up being the one that got in trouble, and they got kicked off. And I don't remember it being a big, apology. And, if you're a passenger, if you're a patron on, whatever airline, you can wear whatever t-shirt you want, and that's not cause for being thrown. I don't remember it being handled in the same way. That's one. Two, I would encourage any victim of racism in a workplace situation where you are working directly for other race soldiers, their managers, they're on the job, or a situation where you are going to be providing a service where you'll have white clients, white customers. I would not encourage or recommend having any sort of t-shirt, memorabilia, anything that is like your form of protest for black liberation or against racism, white supremacy. That's just my suggestion. And the reason being, just that instance, I just haven't seen instances where it solves problems. If anything, I've seen it creates new problems frequently. That's not the reason that you took the job, to make whatever political stance you want to make. You don't want to make more trouble for yourself. You just want to be able to go do whatever you're supposed to do, whatever your duties are, get compensated correctly, and get out of there without being harmed. That's the goal, I think, for a lot of us. And I have not seen where that has worked out well in a constructive manner for a non-white person. Essentially, I think it sets you up to get more attention and maybe even more mistreatment. That is something that I've seen consistently as well. But that's just my suggestion. And just, again, to emphasize on this program, we just offer suggestions. I offer suggestions. I am not an expert on workplace counter-racism strategies. That is not the case. Just try to the best of my ability to use counter-racist logic in my studies, my personal experiences as well, working to just try to figure out, what are logical, practical things that can be done to try to deal with these problems as best we can. I think many of our listeners try to do the same, but these are just suggestions. Process, come to your own conclusions about what the best way to proceed is. Also, I thought the segment with Mr. Fuller, I played that because the holiday season is here, horror day season, and a lot of us are dealing with these office parties and things. Certainly, if you want to share either experiences or codification on how to address that, that would be welcome as well. Proceeding, I thought the segment with Mr. Fuller, I thought he hit, and that segment was from December of 2009, 7 years ago, but it was December right about this time, and he was talking about, in fact, it was December 1st, 7 years ago to the day, but he was talking about the laughter that comes out, and that's something that gets discussed on this program a lot, and I've heard him talk about that in the context of the job as well, being the entertainment committee. That could come up during the holiday season also, in terms of, if you have parties or what have you, particularly if there's alcohol at these events, and just my general suggestion, again, if you have to attend, I know some people are in situations they feel they will be penalized if they don't attend, you just codify how you are going to participate. How long am I going to be here? Certainly you're not going to consume any alcohol before or during the event. And then if you're going to have a wing person, right? So if you're married, right? So hey, I'll get my husband and we'll do this. Or for males out there, I'll get my wife. Boom, we'll do this. Right on. And you already have a code. You have a signal maybe between the two of you about, if we're going to leave, what time we're going to leave, if we get in trouble, if something looks like it, could be a problem. You already have your codes worked out, who to keep an eye on, if you need help, that sort of thing. You just codify and how long you're going to be there. Are we going to do, 45 minutes or something like that? Do we need to cut out a little bit earlier? What's our excuse going to be? That sort of thing. You just codify your participation. If you don't have to go, not going to be there. Keep it moving. I'll read a couple of comments that folks wrote in, and then we'll get to folks who dialed in on the phone line. First comment, author, one of our favorites, Pieces of a Puzzle, the book that discusses Area 8, sexual intercourse between black females, white men. Renithia Tate, she's been on the program numerous times over the years. She is a listener as well. She was checking out the program with workplace racism. She was checking out some of the archives. And I do want to state that she lists this as a code violation. That's generally not the type of language that I would use because, and I shared some of this logic with her, my understanding of counter-racist codification, it is united independent. Nobody is required to do everything that Mr. Fuller says that he lays out as a part of counter-racist codification, or Dr. Welsing, or Miss Tate, or Gus T Renegade, or Pam, or whoever else. Everybody united independent. All victims can and should develop their own counter-racist code. So that's why I would not phrase it as counter-racist as a code violation. But that's the language that was employed. So. She wrote in, I listened to your workplace racism show on November 24th, and I heard a very important code violation. A gentleman called in and said he was handed a questionnaire to fill out stating how he felt about management. It was then told to him to use a falsehood to complete the form. This was a code violation, but I do understand why this was done. However, as a counter-racist, we are supposed to speak truth all times and all places in order to produce justice. We are supposed to study ways in which to speak truth. My suggestion would have been to ask his manager questions after reading the questionnaire. The first question I would ask is, how is this questionnaire going to affect my position with your company? Now this was an attack, a threat. The racists will directly or indirectly threaten their victims into lying in order to get those things needed for our survival. This is also a test for them to see if their operation is effective. We, as counter-racists, must study ways to speak truth in order to produce justice. Remember, we want white people to speak truth to us, and we must speak truth to them. One day, I will call in to share her thoughts on the broadcast. Again, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, every Thursday. And I also told her as well, I think Mr. Fuller emphasizes this consistently. I think that is certainly important, very, in a system that is primarily held together through deception. And I did also share, I think this is something we've talked about before, specifically within the context of workplace racism. Are you going to proceed with being honest at all times in the workplace? And I think Thomas in New York and I think some other people, unless I have been mistaken, said that they rejected that aspect of codification in terms of I'm going to be honest at all times in the workplace, and saying that this is war. I'm paraphrasing, but saying that this is war and that they see deceit as a strategy that can be employed in certain times, certain situations, for the purpose of countering racism. I'm paraphrasing, but I think that was the gist of Thomas in New York and several others, the position that they took, that they are acceptable and think it can be constructive to employ deception strategically, particularly on the job. But people can come to their own conclusions. I do think that's important, again, in a system primarily maintained by deception. Very, very important that we make an effort to emphasize and value truth. Renithia Tate. Next person that wrote in, they said a couple weeks ago on the Workplace Racism broadcast, a female caller mentioned several companies that provided work-at-home employment. Do people either remember what the company was or the specific broadcast? Because I do not remember the exact date that this happened. So if either the caller is listening and you can give us the information, or if you have a great memory, better than Gus T, and you remember the date where this was shared, that would be appreciated. I had more information, but I will stop so we can begin to get to some of our callers. The number again, 641-715-3640, and the code is 564-943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate. Folks who dialed in who have a hand up, line should be open. Feel free to chime in.
Yes, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I started a new job today, security job. Well, it's the second job. It's like extremely like high level security, so you have to use 2 different badges to get in different doors, including the first door and also a retina scanner. So this is my second day coming in, and the white female at the front desk, who she's like a part of the company for the security, and she said to me today, because I keep
Let's see. Are you still with us, sir? 4950. Are you still with us, sir? Quite bizarre. I think he got. See, that's why I said I think there could be some technical issues. It just seems really bizarre. He got knocked off the line, and there seemed to be some distortion of some level on my line. I don't know if other people are picking that up. I'll look to see when he dials back in, the caller that was just with us that got disconnected, 4950. I'll see when he calls back in, and I'll get him on the line. The other people that dialed in with their hand up, if you all want to share his word. Oh, there he is, right on. Glad he was able to chime back in. See, that's why I said that's kind of suspicious. I'm not sure what the issue is, but 4950, you're back with us, sir? Caller, yes, sir, we can hear you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I have no idea what happened. So yeah, I believe I don't know where I left off at.
Let's see. So you said you just started your new job, very security, very high level clearance, retina scans and what have you, I guess, to enter the premises and what have you, and you were kind of going from there.
Yeah. So I had trouble getting in today. For some odd reason, it wasn't reading my my retina. So I stepped back, and then I leaned forward, because it's like, I guess the scanner is on automatic, so it tilts to like zoom in on your eyes. So the lady on the other side, she was like, "Hey, sir, I don't know about you." So I'm thinking, like, I was just here yesterday. She actually put my name in the system for me to get into the building, and then like she made some weird joke. So I didn't really catch the joke because I was like focused on getting in. So it took me 30 minutes. I got in. So now I'm being trained by 2 suspected races, white male, white female, and I had to do like a training course on the computer. So they started talking about animals or whatever. So the white female said something about, she was like, "Yeah, my cats are crazy." Then she said, "I have this one black cat, my black cat." She kept emphasizing black cat. Now it's 3 of us in the room. I'm the only non-white person there. So she's like, my black cat, talking to the white gentleman. So she said, "Yeah, when I put black socks on, it comes over and rub against my feet." She was like, then I noticed a weird pattern with it. She was like, I had a box of Fruity Pebbles on a refrigerator, and I don't know what happened to it. The whole thing just mysteriously disappeared. And I keep catching this one particular cat eating Frosted Flakes. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, this is like a weird conversation, but I'm going to keep listening. So the guy says, "Yeah, that's weird. I got a cat like that too, but he just licked all the sauce, the pretzels." So I'm still listening, and then I guess they noticed that I stopped clicking on the mouse. So the white female, she comes over and she was like, "Oh, did you check out some post that I was supposed to look up?" And I was like, "No, I didn't." So then the white gentleman, he gets a phone call from the supervisor who told me to take a look at the schedule that he emailed to me. So I pull up the email. This woman leans over and put her breast on my arm. And then immediately I was like, oh my God, this can't be happening. So when I went to move my arm, she was like, "Oh, excuse me," like that. Like she knew what she was doing, but she wanted to see like exactly how I was going to react to it. But I didn't like jump away really fast because I didn't want her to like make a scene and then say something like I groped her. I just like slid my arm, and then she was like, "Oh, excuse me." A few seconds after that, she goes into a conversation with the white guy, talking about relationships and how she's good with the computer, and like when she deal with people, she like to know that they're gonna be good people around her kids. So she do background checks on them, go on their Facebook and stuff like that. And then also workplace racism. My nephew just started a new job. He told me 2 days ago, like, he has to leave out early in the morning to get on the bus. The buses in Pennsylvania, they don't run like the buses in New Jersey or New York. So he had to ride his bike a few miles and then wait at the bus station until they start to run. So he said he's riding his bike, and I'll just use an acronym, and then I'll give like a definition for it, because I know there's like people a lot older than myself and there's females on the line. He said a white guy drove up to him. This is 4 in the morning. It's pitch dark. He said a white guy drove up on the side of him and said, "I'll let me see how I can put this. I'll SYC for free," and meaning he'll perform fellatio on him. So my nephew said he yelled at him like, "What? Get the F out of here!" Hopped off the bike and like ran toward him. He said the guy sped off, and then he was like, he don't know what was in the guy's mind to say that. And he like, I was like, you just have to be cautious of white people, because you never know what they're gonna do. This is 4 in the morning, and that was pretty much it for workplace racism. I'll mute.
Wow. Definitely being cautious around whites. That is, cannot be understated, or cannot be overstated. Cannot be overstated. That was a big message from the program that we did yesterday. Just being aware, and I guess the only thing I would say, I think generally, I recommend going away from danger, because they are so dangerous, and these sort of things can escalate. You never know if this person has a gun or anything. And I mean, they could turn it around and try and say, "Oh, this person was a homophobe." They were making homophobic comments. I was just, flirting. I thought it was a nice place. I mean, anything could happen just with them. So I'm a big advocate of, going away from danger, unless you cannot, escape and you just have to defend yourself. But and even with that, VGQ people can come to their own conclusions about how best to proceed. The situation, I guess the second situation that you shared, where it was the white woman, maybe one of your trainers, where she was leaning over and put her breast on you, that is the type of thing, and I'm glad you noted it, where you sensed that this was like a deliberate sexual molestation. In my opinion, that's the way that this should be thought of, and what she was doing, and you sensing that your response could be interpreted as you doing something incorrect to her. If you had jumped suddenly or moved or shouted or whatever the case may be, which is totally logical. I totally agree. And I mean, that's just the danger of the situation that we're in as victims of racism. But that's the type of thing. I think that should be taken really seriously. I'm not even saying this. I'm not saying this as a critique of what you did. I'm not even saying this really directly about you. I'm just saying it in general. That type of thing, any sort of unwanted touching, or anything like in this case where it's explicit sexual intent to defile and mistreat you, I just think that sort of thing should be taken very, very seriously in the workplace. I've seen where it escalates. That's the pattern where that sort of thing escalates. I wouldn't look at, I'm not saying that you're looking at it as a joke or whatever. It sounds like you took it seriously, as you should, but just to really emphasize that for listeners. And I'm not sure if you have a plan in terms of what to do to see that that never happens again, or if it warrants anything other. I don't know if you documented it, which I hope you did, but that's just, it is an astronomically incorrect act. And I think that's the type of thing where you were talking about whites kind of testing us at times to see how we respond. That is a major test. Like I sexually violated this nigger and got more in store. That's been the type of pattern that I've seen, whether it's a black male or black female on the job. I don't know. Did any of that, am I not making sense? Did you have questions, or did you want to respond particularly about proceeding with this sexually terrorizing white woman?
No, that made sense. I did note it. I noted it in a text message that I sent to my fiance. And then I spoke to his supervisor, but I didn't bring that up. I told him that I was kind of uncomfortable being at that location, and if I could be placed at the location that I was previously working where I was like somewhere by myself. So he said, that's fine, but he said just give him a week, so just hang out there for a week. But my plan is that anytime she comes close to me, just either like back up, keep her away from me, stuff like that. She did come like not as close after that, but she noticed that I moved, so I'm pretty sure she picked up on it. But like I said, I think if I would have said anything, or like, because I discussed it with my fiance, and she was like, well, you should have said excuse me or something like that. And I was like, I thought about it, but I was like, it's pretty much me against the odds. Like, it's two white people in here, and my word against theirs, and I already know that it's a losing situation. So I didn't want to chance it by risking my job. So I just I think the proper thing that I did do. I mean, I could have said excuse me, but I think the proper thing I did do was like to kind of non-verbally let it be known that you know that was inappropriate, because she did say excuse me or whatever, but I know that she did it intentionally, and she looks like one of these females that black males would normally try to talk to, but yeah, I'm just not into that type of stuff.
What does that mean
I
exactly?
definitely don't like being touched.
What does that mean? The type of female that black males would normally be into?
Well, because I've worked at numerous places before, and like I've observed like women, white women that talk a little slang, and they're like what would be the right way to describe her? I guess she's like a little she has a little weight to her, but she's not fat. So like from the vibe that I got was like she thought that I was going to be one of those black guys that come in and just talk slang and be cool with her. The first 15 minutes, like how she was talking to me, and then like after that, like I think like maybe like 3 or 4 hours later, that's when she I guess tried the sexual route. But yeah, I worked at places like big warehouses. I don't want to throw the names out there, but big warehouses where I've heard guys like look at white women like her, like, oh man, I got to push up on her, I got to talk to her. So that's why I said that. I mean, not all black males, of course, but like I did see some black males trying to talk to her. Put it that way, but just not me.
Fascinating. I'm glad we got the extra information. I just wanted, clarification about that comment. I'll only say if other folks that are on the line have commentary, questions, or thoughts on the situation, you can feel free as well. But I will only say I think your logic, and I think you said you discussed it with your fiance about, hey, I am the only black person here, and I would be going to other whites, probable race soldiers, to try to remedy this situation. Why do I think they would believe me? And I think that situation, or that logic, that sound logic was employed before when we talked about some of this in terms of, what do you say and how do you bring this up to try to stop this sort of thing? And I thought it made total sense then as well, in terms of when you try to address these issues and you're depending on other white people to do right about all of this. The only other thing I wanted to make sure I said as well, in terms of your strategy, in terms of moving forward, whenever she is around, to be alert and to maintain distance. I think not being around her alone should go without question. I don't know if that was it, but that certainly, and that might be a strategy, just a general piece of code that non-white people, particularly I would say non-white males, black males, to not be alone with any white person on your job. I wouldn't care if you have worked with them for 20 years, to really just make that a part of your code. And you can even tell people, I think that's one that I don't think you would have any shame or there should be any, problem with just saying, I just make that a part of my code just for my safety and, allegations, things of that nature, to not be alone, particularly with other white women. And I would just say I make a point of not being alone with other females on the job. Just make sure nothing nothing happens, no allegations, just covering my bases. That's all. And they even have that as a policy in some, certain work situations. But anybody else, any other callers, do you have questions about what you heard, thoughts, suggestions, or did folks want to move forward and get to their own situations? Folks satisfied or thinking? Fine. Other folks who dialed in who have a hand up, if you want to touch on your own situation, thank you to the previous caller for sharing. If you other people have their own situation that they want to touch on, feel free, dial in. You're a little low. If you could speak up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks, sir. Greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners and callers. I have a few observations from the past couple of days. The first was I was walking to my vehicle, and there was this blonde-haired white guy sitting in front of the Starbucks. So, he kind of like, nodded, spoke. So I had spoke, and I was on my way about to walk across the street. So he says, hey, like, let me ask you something. So, I said, what's going on? So he said, I have like a multiple choice. He said it like it was multiple choice. He said, like, I wanna know three things. He said, A, can you lend me like $1 or something so I can go in and get a bagel? And then he said, B, but can you lend me 50 cents to get me and my girl something to eat? And then he said, C, can you just lend me a couple of dollars, something like that? He didn't give me no choice to just refuse. So I just said I ain't have any money. So like it was very interesting how it was brought up a little while back about how they pretty much prey on black people to give them some kind of currency or money. And the second was I had like this conversation with that same white male, after the holiday, the so-called holiday, and he had asked me, how was my Thanksgiving? So I said it was constructive or something like that, and reunited with close relatives and things like that. And then he asked me, he just asked me, did I wear a Make America Great Again hat? Because I told you that was the same hat that was on his desk, and he didn't bring it in the rest of the week. So he asked me, did I wear that hat over to the to my grandma's house or something. So he was saying that, laughing or whatever. So I thought, man, they don't never take breaks, like what you were saying, even when it comes to the holiday events. And the next was like there was like a meeting last month, and like we had to stand up while they sang happy birthday to us. And like what I noticed, like I ain't catch on to this, but the head clerk, like when we was walking back to our seats, he said it's interesting that the lady that was calling out the names, she said everyone's first and last name except mine. Like he said my name, and then he used a metaphor. He said he's kind of like Elvis. So I ain't know what that meant. Obviously talking about Elvis Presley. He compared me to some deceased white person. So I thought about that. And two last ones was like there was an email that went out, and like they was talking about like a phone scam, like people calling up pretending to be people that work at the office, the clerk's office, like trying to attempt to steal people's money. And on the email it listed the name of a black employee that works there, and she knew that she was having conversations with the other black female that recently got fired a couple of months ago. So they said this person that was scamming people was calling using the name of the black person, and they put that person's name in the email. So, I thought that was very interesting. It was spelled the exact same way, and she seems to be less confused about this problem. And one last thing was, I had another conversation with a black female where she was saying that when it comes to the birthdays, like, our supervisor didn't offer to take her out to eat to lunch, but she did it to everybody else. And then, I asked her, I said, well, do you think that she didn't want to do it because she do you wouldn't like her or something like that? And she's saying, well, we definitely don't like each other. And then, so I asked her again, and I said, are you okay with her not asking you if she went on the assumption that she didn't like her? And then she said, you know what, hey, I have no problem with that. I said, you're right with that logic. She used the word logic. So that was all of the incidents I have for this week. Thank you.
Hilarious. They do not take breaks. I always think that's great when you can get as Mr. Fuller has stated consistently, white people can show you better than I can tell you when they confirm that they do not take breaks, that these holidays often just become another excuse, another opportunity to further practice racism, white supremacy in a variety of ways on the job. Did I understand this scheme correctly, that the person was using to scam people, that they were using the name of a black employee? Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
There was an email that went out, and my mom pointed it out because I'm usually analytical about this kind of stuff. And she asked me, when I got in the car, because, we talk about it all the time. And she says, yeah, did you see they put, whose name on the email? And, they talked about it, but they try not to talk on their phones, but they were talking about it afterward. So they used, explicitly, it wasn't, confidential. They revealed that name. They said this person was, I guess, pretty much trying to pretend to be this person's name, and she was out. And then she was out last week during the holiday, and it was a short week. We only came in 3 days. So when she got back, as soon as she got back, that's when the email was sent out, the day she came back. So, yeah, that was a very interesting event.
Right on, mommy. Catching details. And that, too, and just in my opinion, that type of thing, I was with the program we did yesterday, right, for the Albany 3, and appreciate that was our speaker now in Florida. He was the one that recommended their documentary, Indefensible. But that came up on the program as well in that same dialogue in terms of or I guess it didn't come up. I didn't come up because I didn't mention it. The book Racial Hoax. There's a black female who wrote the book. Her name is just escaping me. But in Racial Hoax, she talks about how when you have crimes where white people are going to go out and do whatever criminal activity, like Charles Stewart, the white guy up in Boston, where he killed his pregnant wife and blamed it on a black guy, and I think it was Sharon Smith, the white woman, Susan Smith, the white woman who killed her children and blamed it on a black person. She was talking about these incidents where white people commit crimes and they take advantage of. That's one of the things that she talks about in her book. It's called The Color of Crime. My bad, I gave out Racial Hoaxes in the title, but it's called The Color of Crime. But that's one of the things that she talks about in the book, how whites will exploit the assumption that black people are criminals. So a lot of times when they go to do their criminal activities, they will just take advantage of that and find some way of putting a black face on whatever, racial act they're going to do, which again further solidifies you cannot be ignorant about racism as a white person. I would just add that to the element of this whole scam, whatever. Did they catch the person that's doing this?
Apparently, I don't think they have at this time.
Fascinating. White on white crime. It sounds like it could be as well. Fascinating. Document for things in the workplace as well. Document for things that go down in the workplace. Fascinating observations, sir. Other folks, if you all had your own questions or comments, thoughts about what you've heard thus far, if you have your own situation, feel free. Apparently, we have a lot of spectators. Unless people are signaling to me that whites have taken a vacation and they are treating you well, since we just had Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming up, that they have taken a break and they're doing right by you. If that's what's going down, well, that is lovely, and I hope you enjoy your great times on the plantations while whites are not mistreating you. 1842 should be with us also.
Hello, may I be heard? You can go ahead. It's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Greetings, everybody. This is 1842. I wanted to give, I guess, a couple of updates on a couple of things. Last week, or the week before, I believe I spoke about an experiment that I was doing with this white woman and racially showcasing her just to, see what would happen. And today it was fascinating because I was downstairs in the property management office alone with the new property manager. And I didn't like it, and I just, on some level, decided that I was not going to stay down there. So I went up to the front lobby and just stayed away from the office. I was still able to answer calls, respond to emails and everything, but I just did not want to be alone with him down there. And so she comes in, and she's so used to, always talking to me and having all of my individualized, specialized attention, talking about whatever nuance, foolishness she wants to, or whatever. So she sees me in the front, and she actually gets upset. How dare you be up here? Now I can't talk to you. And I don't have anything, she didn't say that exactly, but her whole tone, her whole way, her whole face was just what are you doing up here? You're supposed to be downstairs where I can talk to you for 20 minutes about the things in my life. And I was like, well, I'll let you down so you can, take care of the plants. And then she chippered up thinking that I was going to stay down there. So I decided not to stay down there to see what would happen. And I just, let her into the office so she could do what she needed to do. And, well, to put it into context, just so people know what I'm saying, it's a commercial building, and she takes care of the foliage in the offices. So she needs to water them and all this other kind of stuff. So I let her in so she can do what she needs to do, and I leave her the keys so she can maneuver as she needs to. And I come back upstairs. And her whole demeanor when she comes back to, have me sign the paper to say everything has been done, she's really upset that I was not down there to listen to her. And I just thought that was very interesting because sometimes we as non-white black people feel like class has something to do with it, and it doesn't. All black people, no matter where you are, what you're doing, how much money you make, are subject to being the pets of white people. And they I recently listened to the narcissist, sadistic psychopath speak, that podcast. And to some degree, I'm beginning to maintain that they're all narcissists, and just wonderful performers and actors, have no desire to know anything about you and could drain you dry of all of your energy and feel just fine about it. And that's really what she does. And she really needed to get her fix, and she didn't get it, and she was upset. I thought that was interesting, just as an update to see, tell you all how that's been coming along. And I didn't really need her today, just to put that out there. I wasn't downstairs. I don't need anyone to really see me interact with some white person and think that I like them. So, whatever. Anyway, so I didn't want to stay downstairs alone with the new property manager. He did something today that made me very, very uncomfortable. And what's really funny, I'll be honest, at first I wasn't sure if I even wanted to say it on a call because I don't know why I'm feeling funny about it. I don't really know how to describe how I'm feeling. And because it is there, and I can't deny that it's there, but I was like, maybe I didn't want to say it, but I'll say it anyway just to put it out there. So first he comes in, and I'm there first. So I'm at my desk, and he sits his stuff down. He sits down in the seating area that we have that's right next to my desk and starts to talk to me about all kinds of personal stuff that I'm not interested in at all, to the point that he gets up and comes behind, I have a very large desk. And the way that it's designed is you really don't have to come behind it to talk to me. No desk is, but he comes behind the desk to get really close to me to show me these pictures And like I'm sitting and he's standing and he's like really invasive. And that's when I said, you know what, I'm not staying down here with you. But then he caught me, so I left. And then I came back to help somebody with something. And he caught me again, and he did it again. So I'm sitting in my chair, and he's really close. And I'm not, sometimes I'm like, maybe he didn't know, but no. There's no way that a grown man who has a wife and children and all of that kind of stuff isn't considering his body placement or my space as a female. Like, it's impossible. And I'm not even going to allow myself to try to be forgiving or, like, questioning what I'm experiencing. Like, I know he's doing what he's doing is what I'm trying to say. And so he came, and it was just, like, way too close to the point that I just pushed my chair back and stood up. Like, nah. You know what I mean? Like, you way too close. Like, I didn't get aggressive or confrontational, but my energy was just like, oh, no, it is not about to go down like that. And it was funny because this is the first time that it's just been he and I in the office. And so every time, like, I keep coming down there, he's been figuring out this way to get behind my desk and invade my space. And so thankfully, a bunch of people flooded the office, and I had to, like, attend my work. But I really, like, I had to deal with that today. Now, I am leaving. And so I haven't put my 2 weeks in, but I am definitely leaving. But I still am, like, dealing with it until I'm able to go. And then to wrap up, I told you all that I would try to codify my response, because I'm not telling anybody what I'm doing, where I'm going, or anything like that. I'm going to type up a very nice resignation letter. Thank you all for the opportunity. It was great. I was able to grow, blah, 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 blah. Thank you very much. Bye. But when people say, so where are you going? What you doing? What I'm thinking of saying, and I'm open to feedback about this, is, and it will, of course, change depending on, like, how somebody says it or what they say. But the response is pretty much going to be like, well, thank you for your interest and your concern, but I'm not disclosing any of that information. And that's it. And that's just what I'm not going to disclose that. So why don't you tell us where you're going? What are you doing? Is it another job? I'm not disclosing any of that information. And I don't know if that's going to be, like, really effective, but that's what I have right now. And I'm just thinking about, like, how I can, are you serious? You're really not going to tell me where you're going? I'm not disclosing any of that information with you. And, like I said, the tone and how I say it will change, but that's what I'm thinking. Thank you all for listening to me, and I'll mute myself now. Thanks.
Interesting. I guess first priority with the spacing issue, that's just twice today. And I was thinking that, this is not the first, this is not the third, fourth time that we've heard from black males and black females about space in work situations. I can't even say office situations, because some of these people, they were not in an office, and it was the same thing with a white person, white men and white women being very invasive in our personal space, not asking, touching, even if they're not touching, just hovering over you where they're standing and you're seated, or just something where they're commandeering your free space, and kind of fencing in your ability to move freely. You'd have to deal with them just being in your immediate environment. I think it's a deliberate act of racism. I think they know what they're doing and trying to make us uncomfortable. And impacting our direct environment, just being around us in that manner. I'm again reminded of Darren Smith. He was on the program and talked about how just being in proximity with whites is bad for our health. But I think it's great that you said you addressed it immediately by just standing up. You said you didn't get rude or anything like that with him, but just standing up. And then other people came into the area. But the same thing that I told the previous male caller that I think is so critically important. I think this, if anything, if you want to think of it in these terms as a test, a black self-respect test. When a white person invades your space and is touching you or what have you, to just be like, hey, you're in my space, or however you want to deal with it. You said you could kind of diffuse the situation without talking, however you want to respond, but to deal with that situation and not just allow them to come and be in your environment and touching you and all of that, to just stop that immediately, even in the workplace. I think we can certainly do that, and I think we can figure out a way that's going to do that won't make any new problems for us and still allow us to have some black self-respect. I was going to comment on I guess the aspect at the end, but I think that's so critical. The component about the space, him just coming and being in your space. Did you anything else with that in terms of how you're going to deal with that moving forward? If it comes up again, or if he asks questions like, "Oh, it seems like you got a little angry the other day. Was there a problem?"
No problem. I just like my space. That was just off the cuff, though. I don't know if that was just off the cuff. I will say, just as a side note, I ordered my tactical pen.
Oh,
Not
right.
that, I definitely ordered that today. Enough is enough. But if he was to bring it up, to be honest, I don't know exactly what I would say. That would be like what would come out. Like, no problem. I just kind of like my space a little bit, and maybe I would motion armed with space, say that's how far away I need you to be.
Got it. Real important. If other people have feedback on that, I thought with the disclosure as well, because you asked about that. I think that could be effective. I could see some whites, thinking who is this, uppity negress to think, she's not going to tell us pertinent information, that she's just going to waltz out of here and not tell us her business. Who does she think she is? I could see some of them getting an attitude, and if anything, I could see them just pestering you. You're not going to tell us, and you've been here so long, and we care about, what do you think? We're going to try and come stalk you. I could see them trying to pester you in a lot of different ways to divulge, but I totally think that could work. Just, hey, I'm not disclosing my future plans. It's been great working with everyone, and hopefully we'll meet down the road someplace. Keep it moving. I think that's a great strategy, and I think we talked about this before about what to disclose, what not to disclose, and just keeping in mind that whatever you say, that is not going to be private information. Just to keep that in mind. Did other folks want to respond to either any of what they heard from 1482, or you have your own situations? Any folks want to respond?
Hello, may I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I have my own. But before I share my own, I do think that if the previous caller doesn't tell where she's going to be employed, I don't think she should. I think it's correct codification. I think it's a good idea. But I do think they might have something like what you just said. How dare she not tell me where she's going to work? She's my friend, or I want to send her things, or just finding any excuse to just be nosy. I do think your response is correct, and I think you should try it out. And I don't know, maybe you should come up with with a contingency plan. Or maybe not. Since it's correct, I think you should just say it just in a calm, collected, cool manner. I appreciate your interest, but I'm just not sharing that information at this time. I think that's a good idea. But there may be problems. Just expect it that there will be a problem. Just expect it. But for my own workplace racism, this is I'm Josh from Michigan. I've shared a few times before about my suicidal thoughts and me getting therapy. I just had my second therapy session on Tuesday, and that's been going really well. And I think I cannot be understated that taking your mental health seriously is very important. I suggest that everyone take their mental health very seriously. And you just be giving me lots of constructive tips and helpful strategies to cope with just telling me, that everything I'm saying, everything I understand is everything I'm beginning to understand about racism, white supremacy, and the global system of it is it's absolutely true that I am a victim of racism, white supremacy, that's okay, and that it's more constructive to live, and it's more constructive to seek out peaceful ways to live or to cope under the system of white supremacy while working against it. And just the idea of sharing sharing your personal feelings and thoughts in a safe environment like a therapist's office is very helpful, because I have spoke with other non-white so-called black people about my issues, and there's just this theme of capitulation with black people, especially black men in general, of not being allowed to be men, and just my family saying, boy, just pick up that Bible, or other non-white people just sort of not giving me thoughtful responses, so I know they love and care about me. But so there's a difference between speaking with your family and friends and speaking with a mental health professional. And another idea that correct information is very important. I remember I mentioned that I misheard something that Gus said a couple of weeks ago, where I thought he said that black people don't qualify as mental health care professionals. Again, I'd like to apologize for that. That was incorrect. And just saying that the code is united and independent, just like the first comment that you read about the woman who said it was incorrect for someone to do something. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what she said, but she said something was incorrect when you reminded us that it's united, independent. And so just understanding that correct information is important, because with that correct information, I made a decision, almost made a decision not to see my therapist because of his complexion. I thought that he might have a non-white parent, and I thought that it might not be constructive for me to go and speak to him, when that was just a total guess based on his picture on his website. And because I thought of that incorrect information, I almost made a decision that I would never known that I would regret it, because he's a black male who's giving me very constructive advice. So correct information is very important. My apologies again for mistaking that. And again, my therapist shared with me a nice anecdotal story. He said a suspected racist biker, the guys with the beards, the leather jackets, and all the tattoos, the stereotype of a biker, came into his office and said, I don't want to see no nigger. My job, I always recommend at your office, but I don't want to speak to no nigger. And then my therapist exercised codification by just saying, he just pointed at his wall with all his degrees and qualifications, and he sort of grunted and quietly began disclosing his problems. And from that experience, the suspected race soldier brought back his wife to deal with their marital issues, and then brought their daughter that they had years later back to help with her rebelling and issues with her. She ended up dating a black male and having a child by him, and that caused even more problems, so they brought all of them together. And it was very interesting to hear an example of a codified response. No muss, no fuss, no emotion. And that's one thing that I'm really starting to understand. It takes a lot of times I don't take other people's advice, let alone my own, even if it's good. But so important to not act emotionally and just be logical. And not that emotions are bad, but we're just a really emotional people because of our condition. And I think it's logical to be emotional, but it's not constructive in lots of ways, because it can lead to having multiple problems. So anyways, just mindful of that, and I'm learning that. And I think, yesterday was my 28th birthday, and I got a couples massage with my girlfriend, and the amount of stress that was relieved from my body was tremendous. So I think, again, taking your health seriously and treating yourself like you're valuable is important, and I suggest it's a very good counter-racist strategies to get therapy if you need it, and to get a massage. It's literally like it rewired my brain. Because I feel like one of the reasons why I felt like dying was because I didn't really believe that racism was a solvable problem. I just became cynical and thought, it's too big to solve. I'm not allowed to be a man. My family's telling me to capitulate as a way of life. And, just the hopelessness breeds depression breeds other things. So, that massage rewired my brain. I don't know what it was, but I feel like I can now start to believe that this is a solvable problem. Like Mr. Fuller says, problems created by people can be solved by people. And Another suggestion for the woman who just spoke before, if saying that doesn't work, if saying that you're not going to disclose information is going to work, maybe you should practice deception. Maybe there's a way that you can lie to get out of answering that question honestly. I don't know. Just a suggestion. I'll mute my line. Thank you.
Black mental health. Wow. Thank you for sharing, sir. Black mental health, immensely important. Immensely important. Take your mental health seriously, and I'm glad you were able to reach out and find a black therapist, in fact, to offer some constructive information, constructive insight in dealing with those issues. I guess I know this was something that Blacka touched on, Depression My Muse, his website, where he talks about black mental health. Has your therapist, has he given you like some tips that you can employ yourself? Because I think that was something that was emphasized in terms of not looking at it so much as the therapist is going to fix you, but the therapist is going to give you tools so that you can help yourself. Has that been your experience?
Yes, he's told me that, straight up, that this is going to be a tough process, that it's going to be something that's going to be kind of guerrilla shenanigans, that you're going to have to work at it slowly. So the first one is to reorient your expectations to something that's realistic and less emotional and more logical. Like, this is a huge problem, and being black is going to be painful, and if you are aware of the system of white supremacy. So number one, just be aware that this is not going to be an easy process. And then number two, focus on what you want to do and understand that you can fight this war on many different battlefronts. Like, I'm an artist, I'm an animator, I want to tell our stories historically and contemporarily and make counter-racist films and see if I can create a body of work based on counter-racism to help myself cope and other non-white people. So he said you can use what you want to use, but understand that you can fight in different ways. And reorient your expectations and decide what you want to do, what you want to contribute, and understand that you can fight in your way. And breaking it's mostly common sense stuff. Okay, so what do you want to do, and what can you do to get there? Me, I want to be an animator. I already graduated from art school, but what are you not doing to get to your goals? What's keeping you from solving these problems? So he's just having me go through and itemize all the things that I want and all the things that's keeping me from getting what I want, and just following the logic, just like Mr. Fuller says in the code book. Just follow the logic to the truth. And I think that's a lot of times easier said than done, and very simple answers to very complicated situations are often the best. And very simply, just being logical about what I want, how can I get it? So, yeah, very helpful.
Spectacular. Appreciate the insight. If we have callers, if we have other folks, if you either want to comment on what you've heard thus far, or if you have your own situation, feel free. The number 641-715-3640. The code is 564943 pound. Press *6 if you would like to participate. Other folks, if you either have comments on what we have discussed thus far, or if you have your own situation you would like to touch on, feel free.
Yes, sir. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
In constructive regards of the two individuals who was confronted with, well, I guess what I would call terroristic sexual aggression, the one with the breast incident, and the black female who had the white male invading her space, and he perceivably is doing it for indirect or direct sexual reasons. But anyway, I'm gonna qualify what I'm about to say as to say that I am not an expert on this at all. The only thing I can say that I have managed to do was get through the time on a job to retirement and confronted with many situations, things of a sexual nature. I've only had one that could be considered to be. But anyway, the first thing will come to my mind with both cases, I think both parties may have alluded to it, is deal with it politely but yet firmly, immediately. Seconds after, in my opinion, seconds after it happens. And now about the reaction and or consequences. Well, it's probably going to happen anyway, the way I figure it. You know, that you would get called into the front office or there'd be some kind of pushback. And it kind of reminds me about what the experts say about someone who is trying to kidnap a person. And they do tell you to resist because if you submit to where they're going, then you're going to be in worse of shape. And I say that to say that if you put off what that person has said or done, or a combination of both, then it's only going to get worse. And you just have to face the fact on whether or not you want to put up with that on a daily basis or at least on a consistent basis, as long as you are in that particular workspace and or on that job, or do you want to attempt to deal with it immediately and or as often as you have to do so? I would say deal with it with the latter, as far as immediately deal with it as soon as possible. As I mentioned, courteous, but yet show some firmness on it. As I mentioned, I did not face it a whole lot that I can recall when I was working with the fire department, but I do recall a whole lot of white males getting quote-unquote sexual harassment charges against them while I was employed. But I kind of ignored it, first of all, because they were white males. So it didn't really concern me at all, but I do recall hearing it almost on a weekly basis. And what I mean by the weekly basis, the incident or the incidents was happening kind of like close to, or at least in the same battalion where I worked at. So it is very common with white males especially. And I haven't heard it otherwise, but I'm pretty sure it can happen with white females also. I just didn't have as much contact with females on a job that I was on, period, let alone talking about white females. I had very little contact with them. But that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Epidemic, the sexual terrorism, it is epidemic. I just saw a report today where they were talking about it in the Canadian Armed Services, that it is rife, where I think it was about a quarter of the females and a little bit less than 5% of the males reported that they had some form of unwanted touching or sexual abuse. This is the Canadian Armed Forces, and I mean, it's just tons of these types of incidents. Seriously, that should be a part of your counter-racist code in terms of how you are going to respond in the workplace to any form of unwanted touching. This is for males and females. And even this, is this something that people talk to their children about, males and females, about how to respond to this sort of thing in the workplace? Because it's rampant. And sexual abuse and racism, I mean, they have always been hand in hand. So just have that in mind in terms of how you want to respond, what to say, what to do. And I think as firefighter emphasized, courteous, firm, full of black self-respect response, whatever words you choose to employ in dealing with the situation. We have other folks who had comments, either if you had comments on what has been shared thus far, or if you had your own situation, if you had questions about some of the incidents that we've shared thus far, feel free. My apologies, it's 1842. I think I mixed the numbers earlier, 1842. But any other folks have commentary they wanted to share? We have spectators today. Lots of spectators. Today should be the day where we just nab random folks, or at least one random person, for dialing in again. As Dr. Welsing submits, I find it hard to believe that you can have this many people listening live and, not have other folks talking about different things that are happening to them, how they are not being compensated correctly on the job, or different things that are happening to indicate that they are the victims of workplace racism. But we will proceed. One person did write in, make sure I get this as well, their written commentary. I'm not certain if your listeners are aware that complaints for unpaid wages can typically be filed with the state and or federal Department of Labor, and the address www.dol.gov/WHD. Attached is a PDF containing information about the State Department of Labor procedures for filing wage claims. Please share with your listeners and let me know if you have any questions. I will post this address on our Facebook page, but if you need it again, it is www.dol.gov/WHD. So if you have any wage claim disputes with your employer or former employer, apparently information right here that you can use to try to help with that situation. Still, other folks, no commentary on what we've heard thus far. I was going to ask, just in general, do people have, I can make a request, do people have a code, males and females, for your work situation? This is what I do. If any form of unwanted touching or someone, says something, do people have like a firm code that they use in their workplace situation in terms of how they respond to this type of thing? And if so, you feel comfortable sharing?
I developed one after I had that incident with the white female enforcement official, for sure. Never, ever be in the company of a white female and alone, and be alone in that white female's company. Never.
Right on. I certainly enthusiastically endorse that aspect of anyone's code. But if someone, if they got in your space, like we heard with the incident 1842, if a white woman or a white man even came and got in your space while you were working at the fire department, or made some sort of remark, would that be something where you would go to the manager? Would you try and address it with them immediately? Like, did you have a code for how you would address that?
Once again, I would say there's very little opportunity to be in it. Say it again. Say the scenario again, Gus.
Just if it was another white person, another white firefighter, white guy, and he's like getting in your space, because we've heard that a lot too. Like, I don't know if you're sitting down someplace and he's coming and deliberately like getting really close to you, or touching you, or making remarks, male or female. Like, would that be something you'd address directly right then with him, or would you involve management, somebody else?
Yes, in a sense, yes. I probably would, if it ever came down to it, in order to make it official. But I, along with two others on the entire fire department, developed such a reputation on the job itself that I had very little contact in that way. I surely understand on the scenarios you're given, and it does. I have seen it a lot, but I developed such a reputation on that job because it became a situation to whereas coworkers would see or see one of the representatives of the group that I was in off duty on television or in the local newspapers, because the newspaper is right there in the fire station on a daily basis. And during that time, it was, while I was active on that job, it was used a whole lot, read a whole lot. I don't know about now. I haven't been by a fire station in about 7, 8 years, but since I retired. But it's such a rare occasion that would actually take place where someone would have that kind of relationship with me. It's not from a bragging standpoint, because there's so many other people that they can choose to do it with. I put it that way, and take advantage of that person in a sense to where either they wouldn't know what actually happened, or they would actually, in some cases, react favorably to it in a non-respectful way. That non-white person. It's kind of like from the theory of a burglar, and you got 4 houses. One of them got an alarm system on it. The burglar probably is going to break into the house with no alarm system. Because it's easy to do. Whereas, as I mentioned before, they had this idea that I was a non-white black person that was at least a lot less confused about racism, white supremacy than most of the non-white black people that were around on that job. I think that had a lot to do with it.
We talked about that.
Unless I was lucky, I don't know. I don't. It could be either or both. As far as they're concerned.
We've talked about that as well, just the importance of, in terms of how you carry yourself on the job and just getting that reputation for being serious and
right.
Not doing a lot of joking and that sort of thing, that can be so helpful in a workplace situation to kind of diffusing those sort of situations before they happen. I think Allison Manswell, I think she shared something similar. She is the black female. She was a guest on the program last month. She wrote the book Listen In about racism in the workplace, and she said the same thing about, she said she's never personally had to deal with that sort of thing, but she says she thinks it's because she is serious, demeanor, she carries herself on the job. That's super, super important. I was going to ask as well for 1842, and if other folks, if you want to share your code in terms of how you handle unwanted touching or any sort of sexual harassment in the workplace, definitely it would be good to hear that code or different suggestions for how you practice that code. But I was going to ask as well, 1842, when you said, I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was about the white guy who was standing in your area. Was that the situation where you said you were a little hesitant even to share about it? And if that was, why were you hesitant to share?
Yes, that was the situation that I was a little hesitant to share. For a couple of reasons. One, because I obviously haven't handled the situation enough to end it, because I talked about this. It was a different white guy the last time we spoke, but obviously it's not handled, so I was a little embarrassed about that. Two, it's weird because I never really considered myself to be someone who would feel like ashamed or shameful or guilty or like I'm doing something to make it happen or something like that, or not doing in a way like it's kind of like my fault or something. And so I kind of didn't really want to put it out there. Even though logically I know it's not, I'm a little less confused than I was about the system of racism and white supremacy, so I understand. But in terms of what it feels like, the feeling hasn't necessarily registered to me but that's my initial feeling. like the conversation inside of my head was like, what about me is saying that you could just come up in my space like that, and then like, why do I get tense about it? Why do I feel funny about it? Like, hypothetically in my mind, that's not how I would respond. But when the situation happens, I'm so caught off guard, even though like I expect it, like I see him expecting it. But then when it happens, I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening, which I know might not really make a lot of sense. But I don't know, I guess I was a little hesitant to share it because my expectations of how I would respond or how I come off or how I am are a little bit different than what's actually occurring. So, but I make it a point to try to be honest with you all on the show and to be honest with to use the space as a space to be honest. But yeah, and the thing is, it's like it's not just him. Like it's a few of them. It's like it's more than just one person who's doing it. And because of the nature of my work, I come in contact with hundreds of white men all day long. And in some form or fashion, I can feel it off of me, whether they invade my space or the way that they're looking at me or what they're looking at when they're looking at me, and stuff like that. So it's like constant, like it's all pervasive in the position that I'm in right now. And I don't know, like I even thought to myself, like maybe I should, like like maybe the clothes I'm wearing. I'm professional, like I know that, you know what I mean? But even then I was like, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe I'm just a little too cute at work or something like that. Like like something about me is making this happen. And so, but yeah, that was
Wowee. Thank you kindly for sharing. That is fascinating. That I appreciate the honesty. And that's why I say I think it's so important for people to share. That's why, this program in particular, I say that it's so valuable that we not be spectators, that we're reflecting on our experience in the workplace, thinking of strategies. If things work, that's great. We definitely want to share those. Things don't work, we can reflect on, things that we could have done differently, done better. It's so important. And I think I was kind of commenting on that at the beginning of the program. I think that's so common where on these jobs, we are victimized. We are mistreated, but somehow, some way, we are made to think and feel that we did something wrong. We messed up. We did something to deserve this, or I wasn't, on my game, or whatever it is. Somehow, we are culpable in this. That is a standard aspect of how white supremacy functions, something that we should be on guard about. And that's why I say we should really be patient with ourselves, just recognizing that it's not our fault. It's the system of white supremacy at work. And even if we don't respond in the way that we would like to see ourselves responding, that's not anything to beat ourselves up about. It's just, recognizing, hey, we're victims. We still have other opportunities to go out and perform counter racism. That's one of the things that I tell victims all the time. Any time that you're mistreated or you have an opportunity to practice counter racism and you're not pleased with your response, don't worry about it. Racists will give you another opportunity to respond. So just look at it as an opportunity to learn, so that you can improve and do better next time. Have lots of black self-respect, lots of self-love, self-care. And just keeping that in mind, that it's you are not to blame for practicing racism for any of us. I think that's really important because that happens so frequently, and I think particularly in the context of these jobs, where we think it's something on us. We did something. Other folks, if you all want to chime in, if you have questions, comments, we have lots of spectators today. Lots of spectators. Oh my gosh. And if that means you're doing well on your job, be sure to invest in the cows. If you're doing that, great. You're getting all your raises and promotions. Invest, the blog, racism-notes.blogspot.com. Racism-notes.blogspot.com. Listener supported, counter racist radio. PayPal button is in the top right corner. If you're not in the PayPal, drop us an email. We will get you a physical mailing address. Other folks have commentary they wanted to share?
Hey, Gus, can I share something about the sexual harassment aspect of the workplace?
Sure.
Back when I was 19, I was being sexually harassed by a non-white Indian female. She used to say very, very, very vulgar things to me, like she's going to put me in her anus or her vagina. And back then, like, I felt like it was something that I was doing wrong too, so I kept trying to rationalize to myself, like, what am I doing to make her say this? And there was a older non-white black female who put her in place because she heard her saying it to me a number of times. And she used to be like, the first time it happened, the non-white black female, she told me to let my mom or my sister know to come down there and put wreck to it. Those were her words. But like I did express it to my sister. I was afraid to tell my mom, but I did express it to my sister. And as time went on, like the woman, she never stopped, and I never said anything because I was afraid to lose my job. That was like my first job back then. And the non-white black female, she basically put her on the place. She said, like, he's old enough to be my son, and you should never talk to anyone like that. And then the next time you approach him and say something like that to him, I'm going to report you. And she never did it again. But like I said, back then, I was always nervous, and I used to always think to myself, like, what am I doing? It's my fault. But, like, it's nothing that you're doing. Like, these people are just preying on us because they see that they can do it, and they know that they can get away with it. And I'll mute my line.
Thank you kindly for sharing. I think that's important as well. You know, it's so common. I know I thought that way myself. It's ubiquitous within the system where somehow it just ends up, it's not whites are racist. It's something about you. You did something wrong, or you weren't doing what you were supposed to do, or you invited this in some kind of way. It's very, very common in the way that racism, white supremacy is articulated, and just not to be minimized. Those white women we talked about white women and their involvement with the University of Albany situation yesterday, but white women as sexual predators, I think that gets minimized a lot, and it should not. I know we've had quite a few incidents over the years of black male callers dialing in and talking about how white women on the job, they've had to deal with them with the same type of thing, unwanted touching or just out explicit sexual advances and that sort of thing really should not be minimized or joked about, because that is a serious thing for a variety of reasons. So really be mindful about that on jobs. That's why I said not being alone and that sort of thing, taking proper precautions on how we proceed with that. And black self-respect, having someone to intervene on your behalf to get her to back up off of you, whoever this race soldier was who was trying to exploit you sexually. Black self-respect for the person who intervened for you. And catching people young too, I appreciate that as well, because I think you were saying that this was earlier in your work career, like one of your first jobs, and you didn't want to lose it and what have you by going to say something or what have you. I think a lot of non-white people end up being in that position, and that's another reason why it's so critically important that we speak to children, young people about racism, because I think I said at the top of the program, you have children and they're 15, 16, 17, where they're getting closer to that age where they might want a job so they can have their own spending money or whatever the case may be. This talking about racism and like in depth and in the context of workplace, critically important. These are conversations that I did not have as a young person that would have really benefited me. Other folks have commentary, unless folks are content to be spectators for this Thursday evening. The number 641-715-3640. The code 564-943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate. Other folks have commentary that they would like to share. Feel free to chime in.
Well, I would just like to say, to reiterate on what you just was referring to about informing younger people, because they're probably not going to get it from any professional source, i.e. high school environment or even a college environment or some other quote-unquote professional environment. They're not going to get it in that aspect. So it's a big plus for a young person to get that shared with him or her, so they can come into quote unquote employment already aware and prepared to be able to navigate with that in mind in their toolbox, including with I keep forgetting, with Mr. Ed Williams' pamphlet. So if something gets real bad, that they are prepared to execute that constitutional perspective that he has. And that is something that's vitally important. You know, any parent should be part of the tutoring that they should be doing with their child or children, because I mean it's vital, because we're talking about we're in these employment situations sometimes 30 years or more, which is a big chunk of your lifetime, and in most part you don't really, if you're not able to complete it, complete that process, when it comes to something that's called retirement, then it can be real difficult. Your life can be real difficult as far as from not being as proficient as you possibly could be if you had that type of understanding and knowledge on what takes place under the realm of workplace racism. Yeah.
For sure.
Can I share another story? This is 1842.
Yes, ma'am. If you could just speak up a little bit, that would be grand.
Sure. Is this better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't want to hog too much time, so I thank you all for listening before I get started. But when I was answering your question, guys, it brought up for me like this other situation that I've been trying to figure out how I wanted to introduce into workplace racism. Like I know I wanted to share it, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to write it or if I wanted to say it, but I kind of just want to go ahead and say it now because it completely brought it up. I graduated in 2011, and I told myself I wanted to work in mental health. And so I got a job at a group home, an ID, intellectual developmental disability group home, started as a residential counselor. The group home manager left, so there was a new one that was brought in. Now, I'll try to be as succinct with this. So there was a black female assistant group home manager, residential counselor too. He and she got into it, and okay, what kind of makes all of what I'm saying so hard for me to swallow is because my degree is in African American Studies. Part of my degree is in African American Studies. And ever since I've graduated, it has bothered me tremendously how ignorant, confused I am and /was about the system of racism, white supremacy, despite having gotten my degree in it. So when I graduated, I thought, like I knew, don't mess with the white people or whatever, but nothing about codification, nothing about a definition, nothing about the nuances, nothing about how to function in the world, like nothing at all. So I'm always like even extra hard on myself a little bit when it comes to this because I had been telling myself that I was very privy. So anyway, so the black female and the new group home manager, they get into it one day and she just quits on the spot, like no 2 weeks, nothing. And no one, she never told us like what had happened. So I was just like, well, whatever, and I was real ambitious at the time. I got student loans, so I was like, ooh, I really am trying to, move up. So all of a sudden, I took on a lot more responsibility than what was really my position. Similar to what I'm doing now. So it's not really like I learned too much from that situation. But anyway, I was doing all kinds of stuff. It was a group home 24-hour support. So I was working nonstop. I was picking up medication, grocery shopping. I was doing everything that the assistant group home manager should be doing. And in the meantime, they weren't able to find somebody. So I kept putting myself in the pot, with this new white man. I was like, well, look, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing it already. Not to mention I have a degree, which is one of the requirements. I don't see what the problem is. You know what I mean? I already know these folks. Been working here for about a year. It's a year. Let's do this. And so, I would be extra. I would just be extra. I don't even know how else to put it. I would just be extra. I would just be doing the most. I was that person. And a group home is real interesting because it's like a house. So, I would feel weird sometimes too because, we in the house and I'd have to come in early. It would just be he and I, but I'm sitting here getting things ready for, the individuals when they get home from the day support program and all this other kind of stuff. So anyway, at some point, then we begin to move this process a little bit forward. Long story short, I did become the assistant group home manager, but in that process, it was very tedious, and a lot of stuff happened. For instance, I had gotten my degree in the mail, but I never opened it because I didn't have one of the little things that you put it in, the little fancy frames that you put it in. So I just left it. They actually made me take it out, take a picture of it, and text it to him because he was having a meeting trying to say, oh, well, I want her to, be the group manager. They're like, well, we don't need, mind you, they have my official transcripts that have every class I've taken, all of my grades, my GPA, all of that kind of stuff. So they actually make me take a picture of my diploma and send it to them so that they can look at it. But I did it. Another thing was, they had told him, this is what he told me, everybody could be lying. I really don't know. I've been so confused ever since this. Mind you, this was 2011, 2012. And it's just been something that I've just kind of it haunts me to this day because it's always there. This was a real big company that I worked with in this area. So he had told me that they didn't want to hire a black female for this position. And so, but when I look back at that, I feel like either they did say that and they said that as one of those we all collusion things, and he told me to try to make me feel like I could trust him, or he made up to make me feel like I could try to trust him. I really don't know. But anyway, that's one of the things he told me. And then in this process, he would always ask me to go and have drinks with him, and I was just no. I knew not to do that. I was no wine, no drinks, I'm good. Just, promote me, let me make this money, and I'm good. And but this went on for a really long process because it took me 3 to 4 months to even for them to make it. So I had to prove myself and all this other kind of stuff. So then I become it, and then it takes on this tone. So at that time there was a lot of transition in the group home because a lot of people really didn't like him, and so then we have to hire a whole bunch of residential counselors, people who actually work the group home with the individuals. And so at one time we had 3 or 4 similar, in my age, we were all about the same age, white girls. And I was training all of them back to back, in groups. It was oh my goodness, all of y'all are here. And at the same time, I used to, just to help you understand, I used to act in theater. So I would have rehearsals after work, and that was down in Richmond. And I live an hour away from Richmond, and I was working here. So I would be at work, and then I would leave work, contend with the traffic, go down, do rehearsals till midnight, and then come back up and do my typical 8 to 5 or what I can't remember, or 11 to 2 or whatever the schedule was, I can't remember. So anyway, this one particular day, I had a house full of counselors, and I was well, y'all got this, you know what I mean? And I left an hour early. And so I could go ahead and do this rehearsal. Everyone knows that I act like they have been invited to the shows. Everyone knows it's something I do. So anyway, they made it seem like it was cool. Of course, I'm always with my cell phone. Everybody's cool. No one's having a behavior. Everything was good. Dinner's even already made. Everything was done. All they had to do was just make sure nobody left the house. That was it. Anyway, so I get back. I think everything is fine. We have a staff meeting. And, I'm literally, thinking everything is cool, whatever. I come in, and he looks at me, and he's I feel in front of everybody, and excuse my language, but he's I feel like you fucked me over in front of everybody. And I'm what? And he's yeah, they told me you left them in the house with, and they don't, Mind you, these people have been trained. These people have had some experience. Like, I was like, what? And it completely caught me off guard. Everyone's just, like, looking at me. It was one of the most stressful and humiliating situations. So I was like, excuse me? You know what I mean? Like, because we could have talked about this a long time before the staff meeting. I'm sitting here thinking we just talking about what to buy for groceries, and you caught. So that happened. I don't even remember how I handled it, but I remember, like, it just got bad from there. Now, let me back up just because a few things I remembered. Like, one time, now, in this situation, we use our personal cars. So one time we had to run and get stuff, and we were in his car. And he just said he had to run to his house to get something. And I was like, cool, mind you. Anyway, so I was like, all right, no big deal, because whatever. And then he, like, long story short, I ended up in the house. And, like, he pulled some book off of the bookshelf and, like, turned to, like, some favorite passage and had me read it to him out loud. And, like, after I felt really weird. I never knew what to really make of that situation. But, like, we're in his house and stuff like that. Another time he went down to Louisiana and, like, he would try to, like, buy me stuff. And I was like, no, I'm good. Another time we were in the band this time. And we were supposed to go do something. And then he decided to go to some, like, monk Buddhist temple or whatever, and we were, like, in the temple praying, like, just, like, really weird things like that would happen. So now it's, like, really tense. Like, he does what I just told y'all he did at the meeting. And so somewhere along the process, we had cameras installed, and I used to bring my laptop because when I would work overnight, and I had a blog I was trying to blog at the time about racism and, white people. And so anyway, because I still don't know how he, like, because one day he, like, when it all hit the fan. So one night I had, like, worked really, really tired. I was supposed to wake up early in the morning, get the folks ready, take them to the day sport program. I couldn't do it, and I had let him know. I was like, I really do not need to be driving right now. This is not going to work. This is, I think, actually, I had already put in they wouldn't even let me do it 2 weeks. They made me do a month. Like, I couldn't leave for a month. And so this is somewhere within that month. And I was like, well, I can't do it. I don't feel safe being on the road. And he called me and cussed me out, like, literally cussed me out. Like, I don't even mean fussed at me, like, cussed me out. Then I hung up on him, called me back. I don't know why I picked up, but I did. Called me back and was telling me I don't know anything about suffering. I don't know anything about hardship and, like, all of this other kind of stuff. And, like, literally is, like, cussing me out. Another time, he would try to talk to me about, like, black people stuff and told me that, like coconut oil. Told me I smell like coconut oil one time. So anyway, like, things blew up after that morning, and I was like, I'm not coming. Like, I'm not about to put myself or anybody else in jeopardy. I really shouldn't be driving the van. I'm exhausted. So I didn't do that. And then, so what he did was, and see, had I even known about the cows, had I known anything like what I know now, I would have recorded everything. I would have written stuff, but I didn't do anything like that. I literally just took that. Like, I just ate that one, for lack of a better term. Like, so anyway. So then he told me not to ever come back. I never actually went back to that particular group home, and what he did was fill in my timesheet to pay me out for the rest of the month, and then that was it. Now, why it bothers me and it follows me even to this day, because when I try to go and, like, work in a mental health field, and I'm like, well, yeah, I have such and such experience, he's still here. He still works for the organization, so I can't use him for a reference, and then who knows, like, what he told everybody. So now it's really difficult for me to, unless they, like, sometimes folks will interview me and won't need to really, like, follow up with people. They're like, oh, my goodness, you know what you know. Great. When can you start today? Because we need someone right now. And then it's good. But anytime that people need references, they're like, well, why, like, was there anything bad? And that recently just happened. Like, I made it all the way through. They were in love with me. I thought I was in love with them. And I don't know what she did, but she seemed like she was crying anyway, and was like, they couldn't because of some reference stuff. And I know it had to be that. Like, deep down, I know it had to be that. Had I could have, like, not could have sued, like, ooh, I would have sued, but I should have, like, everyone should have known what was going on. Like, the whole time it was going on, from the stupid book reading thing to the invitations for wine to the, like, reading me back parts of my blog. I was like, how do you even know this? Like, what are you doing stalking me? And I feel like it's because I used to, like, sit in a chair and, like, the cameras are where, so, like, you could, if I was on my laptop, you could probably, like, zoom in and like Photoshop or shoot, like screenshot what I was writing and like read it back to me and blackmail me with it, like all kinds of. It was just terrible. And let me calm down a little bit. So when I say sometimes I'm wondering like if it's something about me, it was also a little bit like that, because I used to wonder the same thing then, like what's up. These are men who have wives, who have kids, who, you know what I'm saying? Like nothing, like I'm not flirting with you. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, no, but yet you continue to do like this. And he used to get so offended whenever I would say, no, I don't want to, have wine with you or go out to dinner or whatever. And then he would always try to take me to lunch. Like it was just bad. And I wish I knew just a little bit. And even when I had my family, they weren't even able to help me, which is tragic. Like, and of course I felt the same way. Like there's just shame or guilt or just something about it that makes it really, really difficult to explain, like, this is what I'm dealing with and this is what it is. But the little bit that I was able, they are just as confused, if not more confused than I am. We work on it, we trying, but they weren't able to help me, and nobody really was. And I kind of just kept it to myself. Like, very few people even knew. The people I was in the shows with knew, like rehearsal, because it was racial theater. And one day I kind of like broke down on stage because I was being real resistant to the like whatever. And these white people, because I was working with white people, and I was just like, F all y'all, you know what I'm saying? Y'all threw me under the bus. And these white girls who I had trained and done all this stuff like that made it seem like I just left them out there. And no, I didn't do that, but they went and colluded. And next thing you know, all this work I've put in, like hours of like overtime, like special things I did for the individuals, like revolutionizing their menu. I mean, like, if there was anyone ever invested in those individuals in that group home, it was me. And then for me to just not even be able to use that experience, and other than the fact that I learned from it, but not like actually use it to say, yo, yeah, she was great. She did all this and this and this so that my life can be smooth. That was like 3 years that I spent there, and I can't even fall back on it. And it's really because of this white man. Like, and no one will ever know how he treated me and what he did, other than people who might have been around and saw it, but whatever. Everybody's doing whatever they're doing now, but it's me who still deals with it. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you for sharing. I can tell, like, it's, something that just really bothers you. And I think a lot of us, that's why I said, for people that have a work history, right? Like you have worked a few jobs at this point or what have you. There are so many black people. I submit every single black person. I think if you are 30 and up, and I would say irrespective of income, you have at least one workplace incident of just being really, really badly mistreated, experiencing racism on the job, like something memorable that you'll remember for like years and years and years down the road. Like it's without fail, I've seen that. Number one, that's why I state that it should not be happening to have a whole lot of black people and nobody having any commentary about workplace racism, because this is something that is just, it's ubiquitous. This is a regular experience for black people worldwide, and this is a place, as retired firefighter said, 40 hours a week. Sometimes more, sometimes a little less, but I mean, we spend a lot of our waking hours in this environment being subjected to this type of abuse. A couple quick things that stood out, and then if other people, if they have thoughts or questions that they want to ask. And again, this is why I always say with the workplace journal, because when you have situations like this and you see how a situation evolves over a period of time as you work, if you've got notes, right, in terms of your experience and what's been happening, that can be so helpful. Even as I've stated, even if you're not, pursuing any sort of court legal action or what have you, just for your understanding of what's happening, right? Even sometimes for your black mental health, it can be so helpful to just document what has been happening. Just write down a few lines. It'll help you make sense. Sometimes it'll help you, be clear about what's taking place. Just having the details, and then you don't want to rely on your memory for things. If this is going to be what happened, February 20th, 2015, if that's going to be important going into 2017, I would rather have some written information, and particularly something that I wrote as close to the incident as possible, so that I can have fresh notes moving forward. Also, when you were talking about them spying, we talk about that every week. There's some example of whites snooping through our personal property or your digital footprint or what you left in your office space. I mean, this is very, very common in the system of white supremacy. You have to be mindful of that. I think I've even said before, some of us, right, you're issued some technology, like maybe they give you a tablet for your job or they give you an iPhone or whatever, some piece of technology. I would be very mindful about the sites that you access on that device, what you use it for, what you keep on the hard drive. I would just assume that whites are going to be able to access every single thing on that device. Everything that you do, they're going to be aware of. I would just assume that. And I would even if you have your own personal device, if you're coming to work and you're on their network, I would be very mindful about that, as came out in the example. Just that is the system of white supremacy. If you are a black person, you are already under surveillance. That's the way that you should be thinking under the system of white supremacy. The tackiness of them having you photograph your diploma, I think that's common as well, where black people, your accolades are just not trusted. And even if you do have them, you're still a nigger. I will stop there. There was one other suggestion you were saying in the meeting when the race soldier, when he had this outburst, and he said, you're effing me over, and all of this kind of out of left field, as they say. Anything like that, I think it's very important to document, and I might even say that it might be best, immediate. If a white person is yelling and like something that is way beyond what the normal expectation is in terms of how business is conducted in that environment, like if under normal circumstances it would be unthinkable for someone to be yelling F this and F that and you're effing, I mean, if that would not happen at any time, any other day in the office, and now that's happening and it's being directed at you, I would say reserve the right to just say, hey, this is way beyond what I came prepared to deal with, this sort of language or behavior of this manner, and I don't even feel comfortable proceeding. I'm going to excuse myself until things can be calm and resolved and we can move forward in a business-like manner, even if I have done something incorrect, which I'm not even sure of, just because of the totally unprofessional tone and conduct that's being exhibited right now. And I would leave. I would even try and refine it from there, but I would try to have a very concise statement. And I know this is difficult because it catches you off guard. I mean, that happens. That happens to the best of us. Gus T, you put my name first. But when you feel that, like I'm overwhelmed, and it's clear this is way beyond normal, expected, acceptable behavior, and this is not the way, particularly, and if you also think this is something that would not be done if you were white, we're not even moving forward. I'm totally overwhelmed. This seems totally unprofessional and inappropriate for the workplace, and I'm just not accustomed to us doing business in this manner. I'm going to excuse myself until things can be calmed. That's the exact, and it would not be up for debate, discussion. I would just get up and excuse myself. Like, I'm stunned. And I would say that exactly. I was just totally stunned. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I've never heard business conducted like that in this environment before. Have you? And just see whether is that how we do business? Do you remember the last time someone came into a meeting? You're effing us over. What the F is going on here? Blah, blah, blah. When was the last time we conducted business like that? Or whatever the other situation is. But when they're clearly behaving in that sort of terroristic manner, feel free to just excuse and move forward. I'll stop there. Did you all have either questions or comments about what 1842 she just shared, or other things you wanted to touch on as well? No questions, folks listening. Lots of quiet spectators this evening. Not sure if they're exhausted from the Thanksgiving break from last week, or all of what has been happening in preparation and looking forward for Christmas coming up. But very quiet listeners hanging out for the broadcast this evening. the number, and if folks do not have anything to share, that is fine. But I will reserve the right to say I do kind of look suspiciously because there are enough black people listening live. I cannot imagine that all of you have that grand a setup on your job. If you do, that's great. Invest. I hope it lasts for decades, but I'm a little suspicious. The caller at 9315. Did you have commentary?
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this job is like I don't know if you guys know, but I've been calling it a few times. I used to sell cars, but now I'm working at a call center, and this call center is like the LGBT capital. Like it's so many. I noticed it's so many like just LGBT type people that work there today. So before I had so we were in like a more classroom like setting, and I had a trainer. It was a gay black male. Now I'm it's a different setting, but we're actually taking calls now. But anyway, so they told us that so we had a series of meetings like to go over stuff, and they were like, well, we have a special meeting after lunch. So they're like, we have a special HR meeting after lunch. So what happened was that the guy so the HR lady comes in, and then they're like, oh, so you're gonna take the floor, so and so, and they're like, no, like this person's gonna take the floor. So one of our trainers gets up, and he says, on Monday he's gonna be coming to work as a woman. And this is going to be he said his name or whatever. And then the HR lady was like, well, so this is going to be a huge change. This means he's going to be changed. He's going to be using the bathroom. He's going to be using a lot of other stuff. And the way he even said it, he was like, I found out recently that I'm transgender. And I already knew he was kind of weird. I could tell he was gay, but he doesn't act like a flamboyant gay person. But you can just tell he's gay. Like he has like nail polish, he has like a choker, and this is like supposedly we're supposed to be wearing business casual dressing, and he has like a choker. Like I don't know. I remember if you remember the wrestling, if you remember New Generation X, Billy Gunn used to wear one, and like a choker like that, like how girls wear. But yeah, I thought really that was super weird. Also, a guy got into an accident today at work. And so somebody rear-ended him. So there's this white dude was talking to him. I told you guys I spoke about him before. This white dude, he was talking to him, and the guy was like, nah, I really didn't want to do anything, like whatever. And he was like, man, I got a lawyer if you need a lawsuit. And then he was like, nah, that's not, it was just a small rear end, like my paint's not even scratched, my car's in perfect condition, there's nothing for me to do. He was like, man, just fake it. I've gotten two lawsuits off of being rear-ended, and he was saying like he got huge amounts of money too, like a lot of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he's like, yeah, man, just fake it. And I was like, what the heck? And he's like, supposedly like he's been like complimenting all the black chicks I noticed, he complimented one girl on her hair today, and she's just elated. And mind you, this guy is kind of special. Like he's like if you see that movie Dinner for Schmucks, he's like a guy who you would bring, who a white person would bring there. He's like kind of a joke white person, and he's like, it's like he knows all this stuff just because he's white. Like they're not, like when Gus says they're not ignorant, they are not ignorant about any of this stuff. This guy is a low level, like a white person would say, a low IQ, primitive person. And he knows all their tactics. So that's all I had today.
Fascinating. Wow. They are not ignorant about racism, white supremacy. I believe they call that fraud when you just go out and totally fabricate and lie and make up something so that you can get some sort of payout from an accident. That's what they're supposed to have surveillance. I think when we had the email when she wrote in last week, I think she took a day off work and they had like surveillance, and I think she worked for a school system as well, if memory serves. They hired like a private investigator to go out and conduct surveillance on her residents and all that. Like I have heard, I think I said last week that I have heard they will hire a private investigator when there's, like a lawsuit, someone's alleging that they were heard or whatever, and they're making it up. What this white guy's doing, fraud, they will hire a private investigator to see if people are trying to do that sort of thing, if they're just trying to lie and get some money in a settlement. But yeah, that's standard operating procedure in terms of deception to uphold white supremacy. No big surprise there. And white people are not ignorant about racism, white supremacy. Got to keep that in mind at all times. Very unfortunate, and I have seen some of that as well. I think we've heard that both ways on this program today, where you'll have some types of racists, they will go the sexual route on the job and figure, hey, if I wink or, tug at my skirt a little bit or, say something nice, complimentary, that, I'll be able to confuse the niggers on the job, and I might be able to take advantage of them sexually, or at minimum, they certainly won't think of me as a racist, so I'll be able to do whatever I want on the job. It'll be real easy for me. Other folks with us who had commentary that they wanted to share, thank you for chiming in with that. Oh my gosh, the sexual confusion, that'll be something to pay attention to as well. They had a whole ceremony. I had kind of forgotten about that. Really important to see how that plays out if they actually change policy, to see how they change policy if that happens, how I guess in depth they get with everything that's happening with this person who's transgender, I think he said.
Yeah, exactly. It was just weird to me because she came in to say that he's going to be using the bathroom. I was like, what the heck? And, I mean, everybody was clapping for him, too. I was like, what the heck is going on, man? And not only that, all the girls were already, like, super buddy-buddy with him because I guess he gets his nails done, like, at, like, a super expensive place or something. So, it's just crazy. It's weird. But it's like a bunch of, like I said, my other trainer was gay, and then it's a bunch of gay females that work there, and I noticed a lot of the middle management, they're the ones that's the LGBT. So I don't know, maybe I don't know.
Very interesting to see how all of that. I don't know why that warrants applause. People shouldn't be mistreated. I'm not saying. I just don't understand why that warrants applause. Man, I don't understand. If other folks had comments, questions, if you had suggestions about any of the situations that have been presented thus far, feel free. If you have questions you want to get in as well, we will not do the full 3 if folks are, satisfied spectating and just listening for the day. But if you have commentary, you should go ahead and share now.
Yeah, I had a quick question. Is this transgender person, is it a non-white Hispanic male?
Nah, he's a white person.
Oh wow! All right, because in my area I see a lot of I will call them white Hispanics. In my area I see a lot of white Hispanics that are becoming transgender. So I've been paying attention to that as well.
Again, I would just look at what rule changes happen, if any. Might even be interesting to look at the policy and procedure now, if they have anything about bathroom use or anything in that nature, and then if they make any changes, that would be good. And particularly anyone, if this sort of thing happens, I would use it as an opportunity where you could bring up if there's any sort of unwanted touching going on in the workplace, to just bring clarification, because I think if that sort of thing is happening, you can take advantage of people being very sensitive about these issues to get that resolved, so that everyone will be a little bit more alert about what they're saying and how they're treating people in the office environment. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I definitely take that into consideration for sure.
Other folks have commentary they wanted to get in? Questions? I will assume folks are satisfied. I will encourage listeners, if you, throughout, I guess, the next month or so, if you have any experience, any incidents where you are at any sort of what they call office party, get together, codify or just take notes about the experience if you do go, because I think that's helpful. We had some people who did that over the previous years, and we had some fascinating things happen at some of these events, just observations, even if they weren't mistreated, just, things that they observed while they were there being codified. So jot it down. We'll share as we go, and particularly how you codify, what you do, what you don't do, to navigate if you have to attend any of these events over the next month or so. We will be here tomorrow. Lathrop Stoddard, The Rising Tide of Color Against White World Supremacy. We will be, this our sixth session. I think we might have one more after tomorrow, max 2, but it might just be one more, and then we'll be moving on to the next book. I'm not sure what that is. If you have a vote or a suggestion, feel free. I said if I had my druthers, we would do Gwen Ifill, The Breakthrough. She talks about racism, white supremacy. She talks about the incident with Don Imus, where he mistreated her. The presidency of Barack Obama. She just passed away, not infamous, legendary, celebrated, awarded Black journalist Gwen Ifill. She was really outstanding, beloved by many, including President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama. But her book, The Breakthrough, I was thinking we should do that in honor of her recent passing. There were some other recommendations as well. I was even thinking Zadie Smith, because I know we have people that are big television fans. There's a television program, British television program, NW, that deals with racism in the UK, and it's based on a book written by a non-white person. There should be a cowbell. Zadie Smith, it's called NW. I was thinking we could read that book, and then we could watch the TV show for comparison, since I know people are fans of TV watching, but we'll have to see. But again, my druthers would be Gwen Ifill. We'll see if people have other suggestions, but that should be 2 weeks where we're going to our new book. But tomorrow we'll be here, Lathrop Stoddard, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Saturday we'll be here for the compensatory call-in, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Feel free, tune in. We'll be looking forward to hearing from folks. Observations over things that have happened over the past 7 days. With that, I assume, unless folks had anything else they wanted to get in. Folks satisfied? Anything else they needed to get in? I will assume folks are. Were you going to share 4950? Were you going to share?
Yeah, I was going to say, my brother was supposed to call in, my younger brother, but I don't know what happened. He had told me something interesting that happened. He actually works in Jersey City. I'm pretty sure Thomas in New York will be familiar with the area. I believe it's Walgreens or Rite Aid or something like that. So he said that a white male comes in and he's mumbling something. So then he heard what he said, and then he said that the white male was saying racial profile, like that. So then he said, like, the guy started saying, "Oh, you, bro, why you racial profiling me?" Something to that effect. So he said, "How am I racial profiling you?" And he's like, "Oh, because of the way I dress." And my brother said, "Well, I'm dressed the way that you're dressed." Now he's an armed guard in regular clothing. So he said that he's trying to figure out how did the guy know that he was security. So he said the guy walked in the aisle and walks back out. So he's like he could tell off his body language that he was stealing or he stole something. So he said he walked through the detectives or whatever, and it rained. So he said that he told the guy, like, hey, come back. He said that he pat him down, and the guy was like, "See, I don't have anything on me." And he said that he figured like he probably got it in his underwear. So he said that he slapped his crotch area real fast, and he's like, "What is that?" And the guy pulled out 4 the Long Dove body wash for men, and he said that the guy just started blurring out racial slurs to him. I can't remember exactly what he said. And then he said he lost it and just started punching the guy in the face. And I was like, "Why did you do that?" He's like, "Because," he's like, he said that the guy had said something before, but he's like, he just had it up to here with that guy. He's like, he just like punched him like at least 9 or 10 times in the face. He said then the guy just ran off. And he said that the police came after that. He thought that the guy called the police, but somebody inside the store called the police because they didn't know what was going on. But he said that the police they came. I guess they figured out what happened and they left, but nobody knew that he had like assaulted the guy or anything.
Wow, that is. I apologize for laughing because that is not funny at all. Like that. Wow, that could have went way bad. Did you say this was your brother?
Yeah, I actually told him to call in, but sometimes like right now I think he's actually working inside the store.
Mm.
So I think I'll try to tell him to call in Saturday. He could tell you like in full detail the story a lot better than I could. But when he told me it, I laughed too. I was like, "What were you thinking?" And I was like, "What was the guy saying?" And he was like, he just came in and he was like from like the minute he walked in, he said the guy had like urban gear on, like kind of baggy pants. He was like he's one of those dirty white guys, as Thomas will put it, like one of those guys that they just hang out in the urban area. They know the slang, and he was like, this guy was just like saying all types of stuff. And he was like he just lost it and just like hit him a whole bunch of times. He was like he hit his face a couple times. He was like the guy tried to ball up, and he's like he kept hitting him, and the guy broke loose and ran. And then he's like he grabbed the body wash and brought it back inside, and the police came like after that. But I don't remember if somebody called the police from his store or a store next door. But yeah, I told him, I was like, man, you could have got arrested or anything. I was like, he could have said anything like, oh, he pulled out his gun on me. He said he's going to kill me. And my brother was like, it doesn't matter what he's going to say. He's stealing. But I was like, listen, you still got a lot to learn. So I introduced him to the cows, and that's exactly why he called me that day. He was like, what's the guy's Gus number? I was like, what? He was like, what's his number? I was like, it's not a personal number that you can just call him. He was like, oh, man, something happened. But I was at work, too, when he was talking to me. So I was like, I'll talk to you later. And then he told me later on the day what happened. And I was like, no, man, it's not like it's a private number you could just call. He was like, oh, man, I just got to call in and tell him what happened. But, yeah, I'll try to remind him to call in this Saturday so that way he can share with you guys.
That would be spectacular. Absolutely. Saturdays, it's 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific. But yeah, I would love to hear the details. I mean, that's what I mean. I said that's with the program yesterday when I played that audio segment with Mr. Fuller. These type of things can happen in seconds. It's not the type of thing where it's been brewing for weeks, where we've been having a brawl with this guy and he's been saying and looking at me. No, like something can happen in a matter of seconds. It can erupt and your whole life can change in the blink of an eye. That sort of thing is very, very common in the system of white supremacy. And with this situation, like I am stunned. That's the only way that I can say it. He should have bought a lottery ticket, and I mean, it might not be over, because I have seen with these type of things, I'm quite sure with a lot of stores they have video cameras, and I don't know if your brother, if he's employed directly with the business, with the store, or if he's through a contract, through a different company or what have you. So if he's employed through a different agency, the agency might want to look at it. The store might want to review it. I'm just stunned that that sort of thing could happen, and there was no issue. No one made an issue of him putting his hands on a white person in a violent way, because whites generally are not casual about that sort of thing at all. And I have seen where the white criminal, that gets totally forgotten, minimized, like he or she will become Mother Teresa, a saint. They were on their way to help an old lady across the street and then to Sunday school, and they stopped for a Bible, and this heathen nigger out of nowhere. I mean, that'll be the narrative. It will not be that this was some thief, that he was doing his job. It'll be, some hoodlum nigger grabbed and assaulted this poor innocent white man. And I mean, wow. I wish him the best, but man, and I think it was mentioned earlier in the program, just the importance of us not being overly emotional in the way that we go about doing the business of counter racism that racists, they do. I think you said that this guy started making a lot of racist comments towards your brother. That's very, very common. That happens in the workplace frequently. Even sometimes it might not be as direct as that, but it's the same type of thing. I think the person that was talking about the black cats were stealing or whatever it was, that happens a lot, just to provoke a response from us, to damage our black mental health, just to stress us and have us angry. They do this sort of thing on a regular basis. We really got to make sure we're going to be professional, counter-racist soldiers. I'm not going to respond to name calling. Same thing happened yesterday, right? Incident we were talking with the University of Albany 3, racists doing some name calling, and the black person ends up being the only one who takes any sort of repercussions. I think this might be Thomas in New York. Thomas in New York, did you have commentary you were going to add, sir?
Good evening.
Greetings.
Copy hood. Greetings, Gus. Yeah, I've been having some issues at one of my jobs, the first job that I worked during the day, and I feel like my coworker, I should be switching hours. I come in earlier, but I don't start, and he comes in later, but he leaves earlier, and then I'm getting stuck finishing his work, and it's really like, added stress to me, to be stuck an extra hour, hour and a half to make sure this stuff gets done because it's needed, to be shipped out and to get to the place the next day. And it's not always his fault because they, those people, they send off the work at the end of the day, he leaves at 4:30 and it might come at 4:20. So, pretty much the last 2 minutes he's telling me, what needs to be done with this to get it out. It might need X amount of copies. So, I was just very eager to find out that the white lady that's in charge, she has been questioning the hours I'm putting in on my timesheet, even though I sent her email explaining to her, the situation, and I don't get a response until the next day. But I found out this week through the coworker that she came to him and asked him, what time am I leaving, and are these jobs in the queue and all this stuff. It kind of angered me because if I don't stay behind and do the work, it isn't going to get done, and you're going to lose your clients. So I'm there doing the work. I'm sending an email explaining what needs to be done, and instead of going to the people sending the work late and saying y'all have to get it done at an earlier time so that that's not my job. That's the other guy's job. I'm his backup. But it's becoming an ongoing thing, and it's just been angering me that she even went and questioned it. So yesterday I had decided that I wasn't going to stay, and just like clockwork, I get an email around 5 o'clock. I leave at 5:30. Like I said, I've been staying until 6:30 or 7 every night trying to get this stuff done. And mind you, also, I work another job that starts at 11, so this is cutting into my time to get some rest between jobs. But I'm stuck doing it. And the same thing happened yesterday, and I had decided that I wasn't going to stay and do it. But when I looked at the size of the job, and looked at the client, I knew I had to stay and do it. This was one of their bigger clients. But, I'm just trying to think of a way to get even and not screw myself over, And I'll meet my line. Thank you.
A way to get even for her questioning what you're putting on your timesheet?
Yeah, normally I would just be like, I would have just left yesterday at my regular time and then said something, like, hey, well, you questioned the time, or, but I knew that wouldn't have been a mature thing to do. That would have probably cost me the job, and this is a temporary job. Mm-hmm. But, I'm trying to think of if I should go to her and say, listen, I can't stay past the time I'm scheduled to leave from this point on, because I notice anytime that I try to make a change with anything, she retaliates. Something gets added to or an hour gets deducted from me here or something. So I noticed that she was playing a retaliatory game. And I mean, when I say retaliate, I mean, it's a strategic thing. I've been trying to, change things implementally without messing myself over, Mm-hmm. But, yeah, it's just become like every night thing. And I know this is their busy season, but to me, in my opinion, the person who I'm covering, his schedule was the schedule I'm working, which is, you start at 9:30 and you leave at 5:30. And the guy who's, I apologize, I said that wrong. The guy who I work with now, when the other guy was there, his schedule was 9:30 to 5:30. Now that I work this other job, I get off at 7. So I'm trying to get in there. Now I want to work his schedule, which is 8:30 to 4:30, so I could, get there. I'm already there at about 8 o'clock because it doesn't make sense for me to go home or anything. I just go straight there, and it doesn't make sense for me to sit there until 9:30 to start working. I could be working at 8:30, and then he could stay behind and get the jobs done because that's what, essentially that falls on him. That they don't send those emails to me about the copy work. They send it to him. That's his position. But he likes the fact that he leaves early. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but that's not the schedule you're supposed to be working. I'm supposed to be working the schedule of the guy whose place I'm taking place of, but it's just, I'm just trying to contemplate whether this is worth keeping or not.
Understood. I know we've talked about with time and energy. I know that's come up even earlier today. That sort of thing, I just take the position that it's done deliberately. I think racists, they enjoy just having that ability to manipulate our schedules and just make things inconvenient for us, even when it's something that could be easily changed, easy adjustment, and we could move forward and everything would be great, but just making things more cumbersome, more difficult for us black people. I see that as a standard component of how whites function, something they look forward to, really. With the time aspect, in terms, I guess you were saying you were kind of having a dilemma about do I just say, well, these are the hours that I'm scheduled for, since it's going to be an issue what time that I put down for the hours that I've worked. If I stay over to try to get things accomplished, I know these are big clients and it's important. If I stay over and do that, then it becomes a problem and all that. So, hey, these are the hours I'm supposed to work. That's what it's going to be, and I'm not doing anything else. Is there like a procedure? Are you supposed to contact her or somebody if it's, these are the hours that I'm supposed to work, but, it's going to require additional time to, complete such and such a task? Do they have a procedure for how that's supposed to happen, or?
Yeah, I follow the procedure. The procedure is I send the email stating what needs to be done, and then I do it, and then I send the email when I'm leaving. And that pretty much shows that I was there. But it seems as though she's questioning that time, even like I'm just sitting around waiting to send the email or something instead of going to a place where I can get some rest between going to the next job. I apologize. I'm on this light rail right now, trying to go to Plantation 2.
Oh, I see. And this, Mr. Edward Williams, we talked about this in detail because he was saying that the same thing happened to him. In fact, we had a listener in the UK, Lorraine. She's been on the program several times. She was saying that the same thing happened to her. And this was within a classroom setting, that she's an artist, very talented artist, by the way. She was painting and she was doing larger portraits, and some of these white folks questioned whether she had done this, and she ended up having to have evidence, and she had the evidence to prove she had done this over how long it took her to do this, and what she was doing each day, the whole process of getting these portraits done, because she said she felt she would have to prove herself to her instructors as well, which I found that's profound on many levels. But as I said, Mr. Williams, he talked about this, where he said the same thing happened to him. They were saying, well, we don't think you need all these hours, or you're messing around, whatever they say you're doing. You're messing around playing video games, or you're sleeping, or whatever you're doing. You're just wasting time. And he said that I think he mentioned a specific program that he got where he could help log exactly what he was doing, like minute for minute, boom, boom, boom. This is, like it took 15 minutes to do this particular task, boom, 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 that you can just really itemize. No, This is exactly, precisely, to the minute, exactly what I was doing and exactly how long it takes to conduct each task. Is there data that suggests, do you have data that suggests anyone who says, well, they have a question about that, or maybe you're taking too long to do something, do you have data to show how long it should take someone to do this? And, let's see that and see what they say. And if it really is that I'm going slow, well then, could I get additional training so that I can become more efficient at completing some of these tasks? But generally, it doesn't even get that far. Once you itemize and break down and start to show, he said, at least for him, the way that he laid out, and this is in detail in the archives, where he found success, that helped kind of back people up off of him.
Yeah, I agree. But the problem I'm having with it is she hasn't come to me with this. She went to my coworkers, and questioned him behind it. So he's coming back to me, telling me, "Hey, man, she just said, ask me this and that and the other." So I don't. She hasn't. If she comes to me with that, then I would have those questions to ask. But I don't. I know any thing I do right now would be pretty much. I hate to use the cliche, but throwing him under the bus, because I'm sure that she didn't expect for him to come back and say anything to me about their conversation.
Got it. That, I think in that situation, I think the code, I can logically see two different routes, whether you take the route of, well, since she just told another victim, and this could be the type of thing where she's just trying to instigate conflict and rumor, and if you go say something to her, and she says, well, no, I didn't say that, or he must have misinterpreted, and then she uses that as some grounds to go and get that person in trouble. So I can see people saying, well, I don't want to, as you said, throw him under the bus. Or I could see people saying, well, I will not throw him under the bus, but I will inquire if there is an issue about my work, my productivity, or if I'm doing something incorrect. That way it doesn't have to do anything with him at all. You can just ask, and then that gives her an opportunity where she can address it directly with you. And if she doesn't take the opportunity, well, then we just move forward. That, there's no problem, and we move forward on to the next time that she practices racism. And I can see the logic in both ways of dealing with that.
Yeah, another problem I've been having with that situation is like I told you, the suspected racist. Well, not suspected, but the lady who used to go on her Trump rants. She left the company last week, and she, her reason for leaving was she was in for 8 months, and they didn't hire her yet, and she wanted something more permanent, which you could understand. For sure. So she left the job and got what she said was a better opportunity for herself. So, but sometimes people aren't honest. Either way, I've been tipping there for about 6 months. So I actually, she planning on ever hiring me to be a permanent employee or not, And her thing was, it's not in the budget. However, she, if they do decide to make this a permanent position, they, will. So I went back on to say, well, the person who I replaced, it doesn't look like he's coming back to work. He had cancer. He came back one day. He worked for about 3 hours, and then he said, due to his chemotherapy, he was no longer able to work. He was too weak. He came back about 2 weeks later and did the same exact thing. Went to the bathroom, started throwing up, and he didn't come back. So she said she has to hold the job for him in case he comes back because of lawsuits or whatever. So I asked, how long will that take? I don't want to be just, tipping forever. I could probably find another day job, And she hasn't given me any, distinct answers other than, she'll reassess things in January. So I'm waiting to see how that whole thing plays out, because if they kept this lady as a temp, and she was doing human resources work, so she had a lot of inside information and things, and even after she left, they still didn't offer her the job, she said. So I'm just very curious to see what's going to happen with that.
Interesting. We will await the update for the situation. Always shenanigans, and I totally grasp people who say, hey, I'm no interest in dealing with any of this. I'm going to do the best that I can to get my quote-unquote own business so that I can minimize this sort of thing. Again, I say the same thing that I always do. Even once you own your own business, it's just going to change the way that you are dealing with racists. And I think we've had a number of even black people who are self-employed, as they say, who've come on the program and testified to that it can improve. I think Triumph 3000, I think she said that it can improve for some people. It can have a real constructive impact on improving how you experience racism and being able to minimize some of your problems so it can be a more productive experience for you. But we still got to do the major work, the heavy lifting of replacing the total system of white supremacy with justice. Anything folks wanted to make sure they got in? The caller who mentioned his brother or anybody else, anything they wanted to get in before we conclude? Anything else? Folks satisfied? I will assume folks are good. Again, we'll be here tomorrow. Lothrop Stoddard, The Rising Tide of Color Against White World Supremacy, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. As I state consistently, sobriety would be best under conditions of white terrorism. I don't think with all of the different situations folks have mentioned, the situation that we talked about yesterday with those young black female scholars at the University of Albany, I just don't think that being under the influence, under these conditions, I just don't think that that's going to put us in the best position to be able to respond and say things, do things that are going to be in our best interest to keep ourselves as safe as possible. Make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and any other black people that we are responsible for. Certainly, if you're going to be in a vehicle, driver, passenger, even as a pedestrian, you do not want to be under the influence and have that be the moment that you are stopped or pulled over by Daniel Holtzclaw, Darren Wilson, any of these other race soldiers, badge or no. I just don't think that saying having a blunt or beer or whatever the case is, that's going to put you in a better position. That's going to make you better able to respond to an armed white man, badge or no. I just don't believe that. I don't think the evidence suggests that sobriety would be best for victims of racism, white supremacy. With that, Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Context of White Supremacy. Signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my condition. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.